Hello everyone! We have another exciting game here from round 12 of the 2018 Tata Steel Chess Tournament, but before I show you the game, I would just like to show you the current standings before the final round. These are the standings. As you can see, Giri and Carlsen are tied in first place with 8.5 points, followed by Mamedyarov in third place with 8 points, and Kramnik and Anand are in fourth and fifth place with 7.5 points. So there's still one more round to go, and it's chess, anything can happen. On an off chance, maybe both Giri and Carlsen will lose their games tomorrow. So if that happens, okay, Mamedyarov can't win his game, and if that happens, even Anand and Kramnik have a chance of getting first place here in the Tata Steel Chess Tournament. But as you can see, both Giri and Carlsen had a almost perfect tournament, not a single game lost. Sergei Karyakin here in sixth place with 7 points is also the third player who hasn't lost a single game. So it will be a very exciting last round tomorrow. Like I said, anything can happen. Giri is facing Wei Yi, and Carlsen is facing his old nemesis Sergei Karyakin, who, like I said, hasn't lost a single game like Carlsen in this tournament. So definitely anything can happen. Okay, that being said, let's see this exciting game. We have Anish Giri with the white pieces facing Bhaskaran Adiban. And someone in the comments told me it's Bhaskaran, but as I haven't really no way of knowing, I will just call him Adiban. So c4 by Giri, the English defense, and this is one thing I always enjoy about Adiban. He's a very exciting player and always has some nice opening in store for his opponent. Here he plays the immediate g6, the so-called Great Snake variation. We have d4, bishop to g7, and knight to f3. c5, d5 by Giri, and d6, e4, and e6. So very similar to the Benoni, only this knight still hasn't been developed to f6 or e7. We have bishop to d3, e captures on d5, c captures on d5, and bishop to g4 by Adiban. Knight b to d2, knight to f6, we have castles, castles, h3, and bishop captures on f3. Knight captures, and here we have the classic Benoni pawn push, c4. The idea is you wanna you wanna give up your c pawn for this very nice central e pawn. So bishop captures, knight captures, and now rook to e1, attacking the knight. Rook to e8 defending, and queen to c2, adding more pressure to the knight on e4 here. Knight to f6, moving the attacked piece. Rook captures, knight captures, and here we have bishop to g5, attacking the queen. Knight back to f6, and now comes knight to d4. Here Adiban goes for queen to b6, attacking the knight on d4, and Giri plays bishop back to e3, now with some ideas of some discovered attacks to the queen from the bishop on e3. And here Adiban goes for knight to g4. And what's the idea? Well, it's pretty obvious. Now there's a double attack on the knight here on d4, and basically any discovery you make, the knight can simply capture bishop and the queen will no longer be attacked. So any discovery made will most likely lose the game. But here Giri finds the absolute best move. He plays queen to e4. This adds more pressure to this attack knight on g4, and also it defends this knight on d4. So what do you do here? You could consider knight captures on e3, getting rid of this strong bishop. If you play this, knight captures, you get queen to e8 check. And after bishop blocks, you play f captures on e3. And what are you going to do here? How do you develop the pieces? Probably if you want to gain any activity here with the black pieces, you have to play something like knight to c6. And after queen captures, you capture on d4. Pawn captures, and now queen captures with check. You win the bishop on c4, and after queen captures on b7, both players have 5 pawns, but Giri would be up the exchange, and I mean it's a winning game for white, so no point in doing this. So not capturing the bishop on e3, rather Adiban goes for knight to f6. We have queen to e7, and this is a very important move, not allowing the queen queen to c7, queen to d8, as if this queen would ever come to d8 with check, then again she would block the knight and the rook from ever being developed. So you can't play something like queen to a5. If you play queen to a5, you lose the b7 pawn, you lose the rook. So you have the option of maybe going knight to a6 or knight to d7. So knight to d7 is played by Adiban, and now comes knight to b5. You had to play something. Now, finally, there is a discovered attack from the bishop to the queen, and here you do have the option of maybe playing queen to d8, and then after queens are exchanged, Giri will snatch that pawn on a7. But Adiban decides to go for bishop to f8, immediately attack the queen, so Giri captures queen on b6, bishop captures on e7, and now bishop captures on a7. And at the end of this very nice skirmish, Giri won a pawn. Now, is that enough to win the game? It's for Giri to prove. Knight to e5, attacking the bishop, and we have b3. Knight captures, b captures, and rook to c8, now attacking that backward c4 pawn. Rook to e1 first, attacking the bishop on e7, bishop moves, and now bishop to d4, attacking the knight on f6. Knight to d7, and here rook to c1, now defending the c4 pawn. Rook to a8, rook to c2, defending the a2 pawn, rook to a6, and here Giri plays rook to e2. And I saw a glimpse of this in the live coverage. They thought Giri was actually bluffing, that he wanted to go rook to e8, and that this wasn't actually that good of a move. And Adiban seemed to think so as well, as he played rook to a4, going for this c4 pawn, and Giri gives it up. He plays rook to e8. Here we have rook captures on c4, and now comes rook to d8, and it's a very delicate position. Your knight on d7 is attacked. The knight is also preventing this bishop from coming to f6, as white definitely wants to go bishop to f6 and bishop to e7 to win the bishop on f8, or maybe go bishop to f6 to g5 and then to h6. So what do you do here? If you try something like rook b4, so if rook captures knight, then this rook captures this knight, simply a4, and again you have to do something about this knight. So Adiban immediately goes knight to e5, not allowing the bishop any bishop to f6 ideas, but Giri pushes f4. We have knight to d3, and now comes bishop to f6 with the terrible threat of bishop to e7. Adiban stops this, rook to e4, and now comes knight captures on d6, grabbing another pawn. The bishop, of course, is pinned. It can't capture the knight. We have rook to e1 check, king to h2, and now comes knight to f2. And here, bishop to g5. The threat is bishop to h6 with the checkmate. And an interesting idea is because Adiban played h5 here. Why not king to g7, stopping bishop to h6? Well, because king to g7 actually loses the game. You get knight to e8 check, you have to move, king g8, now you get knight f6 check. King has to move again, and now you get d6. And this d6 pawn is now soon becoming a queen. You can't capture it. If you capture it, then rook to g8, this is checkmate. So after this, you'd probably, after this d6 move, you'd probably have to do something like h6, let's say, a bishop h4, and now rook to d1. You can't grab the knight because black would capture here, so probably d7, and after any move you make, you get rook to a8, and there is no stopping this pawn from becoming a queen. So after this bishop to g5 move, Adiban decided to go for h5, simply preventing checkmate. Bishop to h8 was played, and here h4. We have g4, now king to h7, and now rook captures. It's interesting, Giri doesn't capture with the bishop, he captures with the rook, and allows this king to capture the bishop. And this is very interesting. What happens if you capture the bishop is, if king captures on h6, then you get rook captures on f7, and there is very little you can do here. You have to give up a piece probably with knight captures. If you play any other move, you simply get g5 check, king h5 only move, and rook to h7 checkmate. So after this rook to f8 move, Adiban doesn't capture the bishop, he goes knight d3, and we have rook captures on f7. Giri is trying to force Adiban to grab the bishop. Adiban, of course, declines. Rook to f8 check, we have king to h7, and here we have knight to f7. And I believe before this knight to f7, after rook to f8 check, it was in this position that Adiban resigned the game. Why did he resign? Because after king to h7, you get knight to f7, and there is really nothing you can do here. There is, of course, a very terrible threat of rook to h8 checkmate. There's really no way for you to stop this. If you push g5 to maybe make room for king on g6, you get f5. But I mean, still, you're down a piece and you're getting checkmated. And there is even an interesting variation where black can avoid checkmate. It's rook to e2 check, king moves, rook e1 check, king g2, and now knight to f4 check. Now if you go to f2, you get knight to d3 check back, so you have to go king f3, and now knight to g6, preventing this checkmate, but now you simply get knight captures on g5 check, king captures, and now you get rook to f6. Now again, you lose the piece. You will be down a piece and down 3 pawns, and your white is completely winning here. And of course, if you capture the knight, which you definitely don't want to do here, then you get rook captures and g6 checkmate. So even with the best defense, there is nothing black can do here. So, like I said, after this rook to f8 check, Adiman resigned the game, and like I said, here you have. If you forgot, Giri and Carlsen are tied in first place. Tomorrow we'll see who will be the winner of the 2018 Tata Steel Chess Tournament. If you haven't watched, if there will be a tie, there will be a tie break played. The tie break will be played 2 blitz games, 5 minutes plus 3 seconds increment. And I've seen an interview with Kramnik. Kramnik said that he wasn't very pleased with this because you're here playing this huge tournament, you're suffering for 2 weeks, and then first place will be decided with a blitz game. So some players enjoy this, some players don't. But it's the way it is. So that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, probably with the winner of the Tata Steel Chess Tournament.